Revenge films.
I'm currently living with my father, who's raised me all by himself for the last few years. He's taken care of me ever since my mother passed away a couple of years ago. My father had a well-paying job and was able to support his family, so we didn't have to worry about our financial situation, but I loved my mother dearly, so losing her took a heavy toll on my mental health. I was deeply saddened by my loss. I was in college when my mother passed away, but after her death, I had to rethink my plans for the future. And so, I thought long and hard about what I wanted to do after I graduated, and I eventually came to the conclusion that I should get a job to support myself. My father told me that I could work for his company, but I didn't want to do that. I felt like I would be cutting corners if I did that. But my father still didn't want me to go through the difficult process of finding a job, so he tried to convince me to work for his company many times. I had already made up my mind at that point, so he was never able to convince me though. And so, after applying to a company that I liked, I got a notification that I passed the screening stage of the application process. I was delighted when I heard the news. And after passing the first round of interviews with flying colors, I was called back to the office for a final round of interviews. When I got to the office, there were already a bunch of other applicants in the lobby waiting for their names to be called. And so, I sat down on one of the open chairs and waited patiently for my interview to begin. After a couple of minutes, the person that sat in front of me had their name called and went into a separate room for their interview. And now it's my turn. My name was called, and I entered the room nervously. And as soon as I sat down, one of the older men that was sitting across the table from me asked me this after taking a quick glance at my resume.
It says here that you only have one parent, is that true?
Yes. I'm currently living with my father. That's when he waved my resume in the air and said this to me.
So you think you can get a job here just because you have a sob story, huh?
I couldn't believe my ears at first. How rude can this interviewer be? But he paid no attention to me and kept on going.
I'm sorry, but your tactics aren't gonna work on us. You're not gonna get an offer from us by making us feel bad for you. And besides, I bet you haven't even received proper education growing up since you only have one parent.
I wanted to punch him in the face, but I tried my best to calm myself down. This was the most important interview of my life, and I couldn't screw this up. But that's when the same interviewer said something that I couldn't ignore.
And the suit you're wearing right now, it looks a bit worn out. I bet you couldn't buy a new one because you're poor. That's sad. But anyway, we can't let someone like you work for us. You'd ruin our reputation, and we can't risk something like that happening. Sorry, but we're rejecting you.
And so, he threw my resume onto the floor and pointed to the door. I was so sad and angry that I ran out the room in tears. That was the first company I ever applied for after graduating from college, but I can't believe the interviewer said those things to me. I was beyond shocked, and for a good while, I lost confidence in myself. After making my way home that day, I locked myself up in my room. But when my father got home later that night, he asked me this.
So how was the interview? Were you nervous?
I couldn't tell him the truth. That would disappoint him. I have to make something up. Yeah, I was really nervous and I think I screwed up. I tried my best to laugh it off, but I felt tears forming in my eyes. Just thinking about what happened that day made me angry and frustrated. So I closed the door to my room and cried quietly in my bed. Oh, and there was one other reason I couldn't tell my dad about what had happened that day. The suit that interviewer insulted belonged to my mother. My father gifted it to me because he thought it would give me some good luck. Sure, it might be a bit old and worn out, but it's still clean. And my father even had it dry cleaned for me the other day. And that's why it felt like the interviewer had insulted the memory of my mother when he made fun of the suit I was wearing. But I was eventually going to have to tell my dad that I got rejected. So that night, I went to bed thinking of ways to deliver the news to him. And when I woke up the next day, my father had already left for work. I was still so devastated by what the interviewer said to me the day before that I started thinking to myself, what if I just get a job in my father's company? But that's when I got a call from the company that I had interviewed for the day before. I was shocked to receive a call from them and immediately answered the phone. The person on the other end seemed to be in a huge rush, and he pleaded for me to come to their office as soon as possible. They hung up from the call before I could ask them why, so I just decided to listen to their instructions and headed over to their office. When I arrived, I told the receptionist what I was here for. She flinched when she heard my name and urged me to get on the elevator with her. I was wondering where she was taking me when we arrived at the CEO's office. I can't believe I'm here right now. And when I walked in, I saw a face that I recognized. That's right. It was the interviewer from yesterday. And the CEO of the company was sitting right next to him, taking a sip out of his coffee mug. But as soon as they saw me entering the room, they both stood up and started apologizing to me.
We are so sorry about what happened yesterday.
I couldn't really understand what was going on. But according to the CEO, this was what happened. One of the interviewers that were there during my interview yesterday recognized my face and was able to figure out that I was my father's daughter. And apparently, my father is one of this company's largest and most important investors. And because I had visited this office a couple of times before when I was a kid, he was able to identify me. And after I ran out of the office in a hurry, he made a call to my father to apologize to him about the behavior of one of his colleagues. When he heard what happened, my father was furious. He made his way to the CEO's office first thing in the morning and told him how absurd it was for them to reject his daughter just because she was raised by a single parent. He was also mad at how the interviewer insulted my character and the way I was dressed, and told the CEO that he wasn't going to forgive them for treating his daughter this way. He threatened to pull all of his investments from their company if they didn't change their ways. He told them that he wasn't interested in doing business with them anymore if this was the way they were going to go about hiring new employees. According to the CEO, his company needs my father's financial support to sustain itself. If my father cut ties with them, they would go under in a matter of months. And so, after his conversation with my father, the CEO immediately instructed the interviewer in question to come see him in his office. He also decided that it would be best if they apologized to me in person, and that's why they called me here. I knew my father was a business owner, but I had no idea that he was investing money into this company. The CEO then told me that he would like to set up another interview for me. The interviewer that insulted me pissed me off, but I knew that this company was full of potential, so I couldn't pass up on the opportunity. He then took a quick glance at my resume and said this to me.
I am so sorry about the way this man treated you yesterday. You are more than qualified to be applying for this position, and he shouldn't have said those things to you. Again, I am very sorry about what happened. So, what do you think? Do you think we can hire her? Yes, of course. She meets all the necessary criteria, so I don't see why not.
The other interviewer that was in the room for my interview yesterday gave me a huge stamp of approval. So, does that mean that you guys are hiring me?
Of course, and it's not because your father is investing in our company. I can see you becoming a smart and talented employee, and you're full of potential. That's why we want you to work for us.
Thank you so much. And when the interviewer heard that, he let out a sigh of relief and said this.
Ooh, thank God. All right, looks like I had nothing to worry about.
But that's when the CEO replied with this.
You're kidding me, right? We're obviously firing you, you idiot! You need to gather your things and leave!
What? Why? She forgave us, though. There's no need to fire me anymore.
We don't need someone like you in our company. Now leave!
And after the interviewer left the room, the CEO turned to me and told me this.
We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for your father. We're going to make sure something like this never happens again, so it would make us all feel a lot better if you forgave us.
I'm glad everyone else that works at this company is polite. And a few days later, the CEO made his way to our house with a snack in his hand. As soon as we answered the door, He got down on his knees and started apologizing to my father. My father was still furious, but I knew that this was just a standalone incident caused by one bad apple. I was able to calm him down after a while and convinced him to forgive the CEO. And a few months later, I officially started working at the company. I told the CEO that I didn't want to receive any special treatment, and he gladly accepted my terms. I also heard in a rumor that the interviewer is having a hard time finding another job, because someone in the industry has been telling everyone about what he said and did to me during that interview. I guess that's why none of the HR departments in our city want anything to do with him. And I wasn't the only one that he treated poorly during the final interview round, so he definitely deserves this. I wonder how it feels to be on the receiving end of rejection letters. And after failing to land a job offer, he went back to the suburbs where his parents live. Good riddance to him. I hope he never comes back to the city. He doesn't deserve to have a job here.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.